streaming is harder than your 9 to 5 job. At least that is the opinion that many streamers have. Many top streamers have this opinion. I am on the I'm not really on the fence about it. It's more like definitely depending on the numbers and stuff like that, right? Having thousands of people constantly talk about you or criticize you, or even like just having this opinion of you think, the streamer job is harder than the 9 to 5. Like that opinion alone has literally hundreds of people yelling at you saying you're wrong. Like I ain't gonna lie, that's kind of tough. But it's like some 9 to 5s when it comes to difficulty, right? It harder, right? Is it more harder? Is it more strenuous? Is it more difficult? Right? When I think of a 9 to 5, let's just say somebody working at a grocery store. I would say it's not hard, but it's definitely very monotonous, right? You're doing the same thing over and over. You're stacking the shelves. Maybe you are doing some heavy lifting, like in the back, right? Getting like the pallets and all that stuff. And like you're probably working with coworkers that you probably don't enjoy being around. I don't know, man. It definitely just depends, right? Everybody has good and bad parts of their jobs in general. But to compare and say one is harder than the other, I think, again, it's one of these things that is mostly mindset and it's definitely very subjective. But let's go ahead and check this out. This comes from the Discord. Shout out to the Discord. I appreciate you guys. And this is an Optimus video, man. Shout out to Optimus. I haven't seen this kid in a while. When I say kid, he's probably like 19 or 20 now.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about this online debate that has been sparked. It's been pretty much going on for years now. I've already made videos talking about more specific incidents of basically Twitch streamers saying the exact thing we're going to be talking about here. But basically, this whole debate has been around whether or not streaming, content creation, YouTube, whatever online content creation you really want to bring up or insert, whether or not that's harder than like doing a 9 to 5 job. Let's say, working at McDonald's or being a doctor or a brain surgeon or in the military or like a warehouse.
Well, I feel like those aren't 9 to 5s, right? A 9 to 5 is you clock in at 9 and then you clock out at 5. The military, you ain't clocking in at 9, you clocking in at 5 a.m., right? And then you get off at 1700, at least you're supposed to, because that's the end of the duty day. So that doesn't count. If you're talking about working in the oil field, that doesn't count. If you're talking about being a doctor, that doesn't count because doctors are pretty much on call 24/7, right? Those aren't 9 to 5s. 9 to 5s is jobs where you clock in at 9 and then you clock out at 5. Those are usually the more customer based type of jobs like cashiers, restaurants, fast food. Like those are more 9 to 5. And I would say comparatively to those, again, it just depends, right? It depends on the McDonald's you work at. You can have a McDonald's where everything is chill and you actually like I know people that worked at Taco Bell, that worked at McDonald's, and like the only thing they really hated about it was the other coworkers. Like that's about it. So yeah, I mean, it just depends.
Warehouse employee or a fucking factory worker, you know what I mean? Like, there's all the different quote-unquote normal jobs out there that make up like 99.9% of the workforce. And then there's the like few thousand people on the planet like me who, we get to play video games for a living and just talk about shit that happens on the internet, or, like in some of these Twitch streams, they just basically will literally read chat and that's all they do. Or they'll like film themselves eating, or they'll go to the coffee shop with a camera on them. And so there's this debate, and it's primarily sparked by Twitch streamers and live streamers in general. I don't know if there's some sort of specific disconnect that really causes them to think this more frequently. I will have to assume that if Twitch streamers are saying this and believing this, you best believe that there's also TikTok stars out there, YouTubers and whatnot, who also think the same thing. So now I want to be fair during this entire thing because let's be real, there's realistically no actually good way to bring up this argument if you're the people actually trying to say that streaming is harder than a 9 to 5, because let's say you're one of these Twitch streamers, you have thousands of people in your stream watching you, right? And you just bust out with the, oh yeah, me sitting here and playing Fortnite, this is harder than a 9 to 5. It's a lot more mentally taxing. There's a lot of things I go through that you guys don't go through at your jobs. There's pretty much no way ever where that's just gonna like sound good. You know what I mean? Almost every single member of your audience is gonna hear that shit and
that's the thing, right? That's the thing, right? It doesn't sound good to say these things, but regardless if it sounds good or not, the truth is, and the matter of the fact is, like, yeah, we live completely different lives. And yes, there's some streamers that probably work the 9 to 5 and they could honestly do a better comparison. But yeah, is it going to sound good? Probably not. But let's keep it real, man. There are things in this world that they're comparable, but unless you really put your shoes in both of them, you're not gonna understand. So like say you work a 9 to 5 and you never decided to do content creation, you never decided to stream, right? You don't know what it's like to have either nobody in chat and now you're working your ass off for the grind to get people to come to your stream to actually enjoy your content, right? That in itself very arduous because you're not receiving any benefit at all versus you got told, "Hey, you got to wake up, you got to go to work at 9 and you clock in, you get told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and then it gets done. And then you clock out." And then there's other people that are streamers that are legitimately like bosses, right? They go in and they do the stream or they make the video, but then they have to say, okay, I need the thumbnail done. I need this done. Next week, we got a whatever coming up. We got a pod. We got to get the information, right? And then you're a business owner, right? And I've always said this, man, it's way harder being a business owner than being the employee. And that's just 100% honest. It is way easier to go ahead and clock in and then get your check by the end of the week versus being the one to sit and write that shit because there's a lot that goes into that and employee management on top of it, which is why you end up becoming like middle managers, right? The managers that work at the 9 to 5. And because it's necessary, right? The bigger the company gets, the harder it is for the people at the top to really make sure everything is going well at the ground floor. And yeah, people aren't going to like it, but that doesn't mean it's not true. And I think it's just a lot of ego in general, right? There's a big ego to say, oh, my job is harder than yours. It's like, so what? Like at the end of the day, when you sign up to be a content creator, yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, it's going to be mentally taxing, but that is legitimately what you signed up for. And if you're working a 9 to 5, oh, I hate the customers. Oh, I hate my coworkers. Same thing. You literally signed up to join that job, right? So if there's going to be a big issue about what's hard and what's not, it's because you're comparing it, bro. Like, yes, there are good and bad things about being both a streamer and a 9 to 5 worker. Like again, it's easier to clock in, get told what to do, and then clock out versus you like when you're the boss, you have to make yourself work. Nobody is going to force you to work. Like nobody's forcing me to make this video. And I'm not being forced to make this video either. Like I get the opportunity to make this video, which is again, it's a mental thing. Some people might go to their desk or whatever, and their communities like, we want you to watch this, and they don't like it, but they have to watch it because if or they have to make it because if not, they're not going to get views, right? Again, it's just part of it. It's a push and pull for everything, to be honest. And like, if anything, people just need to stop comparing them. Like they're both very difficult. It is difficult to sit in camera and talk to hundreds and potentially thousands of people, especially live. And it's hard to work at a restaurant or a store and have hundreds of people come in and 80 to 90% of them don't even treat you like a human being. They just treat you like a robot, right? So yeah, it's tough on both ends, man. And if anything, we should just acknowledge like it's tough for both people and stop trying to compare which is harder than the other. But let's continue.
Out. It's going to be immediately disregarded because to the average person, the concept of even being a Twitch streamer or a YouTuber or whatever have it, that's just a foreign concept. That's not something that
they don't
will
understand.
ever realistically achieve.
They
and
will
I know
never
that may
understand
sound
it.
a little harsh. I don't really
It's
mean it
true.
to, but I think that it really kind of pulls into the grander thing that I'm talking about here. I think a lot of people have this fundamental misconception of what this job really is, what it actually takes to be like a great content creator online, the differences obviously that it comes with from a normal job, right? There's a lot of different things, trust me. And I'm not going to say that, you know, being a streamer with 40,000 people watching you live every given second of your stream, I'm not going to say that that's like light work, you know what I mean? Because realistically, yes,
not.
there are challenges, there are struggles, there's things that everyone's going to go through when they're creating content on the internet. That's just part of the journey, right? I've been doing YouTube on this channel for
like
12 and a half,
years.
almost 13 years now.
Damn, I feel old as hell, man. I remember watching Optimus when he just started and he said 12. Shit, man.
And in that time, obviously, you learn a lot of perspective. You learn a lot of different things about the internet in general, about how all these algorithms work. And of course, you got to deal with negative comments and stuff. There's all the like normal
Yeah,
shit
that
that everybody
happens.
talks about.
That
But you see
happens.
these streamers, and it's almost always people who are like clearly millionaires or like at least very financially well off. Don't get me wrong. Not everybody streaming is going to ever be a millionaire, but like there's people who espouse this belief, right? Who they're getting thousands of monthly subs on their Twitch channels, or they're making thousands, if not
Optimus, you're
tens of
rotating too
thousands of
much.
dollars
There
per
you go.
month. And once again, not to trivialize it or anything, but like we're playing fucking video games. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, this video, it's just me talking about this subject overlaid with video game gameplay, right? Like, I'm sorry, we're not doing brain surgery here. We're not building fucking advanced rockets and stuff that go to space. We're creating videos for the internet. We're
You're
creating live
entertaining.
streams for the internet.
You're
And sure, there
entertaining
are
and
specific
educating.
challenges, but this overall broad concept of, oh, it's so much harder than a 9 to 5, I just can't agree. And I think part of that is because I've actually worked like normal fast food jobs before, and I've done other like work outside of YouTube. I know that not everybody who streams or makes YouTube videos actually has a job beforehand. You got to think a lot of these people, especially new people coming up, a lot of the time they're like
They just
18
wanted
years
to
old,
stream.
right?
They
They
just
are
wanted to
maybe
make
fresh out of
content.
high school or a couple years out, and
Yes,
they just
that's all
blow
they
up
wanted.
overnight into being a streamer or a YouTuber or whatever. They're making all this money, right?
that's
So
all they
for a lot
wanted.
of these people, they've never actually even held jobs. And some of them have. I'm not going to say that all of them are like this, but some people who think shit like this and feel this like almost entitled mindset of, oh, woe is me, my job is harder. They realistically, many of them don't have any actual experience, like in the field. And even then, like myself included, like a lot of the jobs that some of us did have, they weren't necessarily like the fucking front lines of the world by any means. I worked at fast food
Damn, Optimus, you just started shooting innocent hoes on the boat? Bro, that's crazy.
restaurants. These are basically jobs that anybody with eyes, ears, fucking hands, feet can do, right? So there's jobs out there like where people are slaughtering livestock, or they're in the fucking military in war zones, or they're chopping
These aren't
down
9 to
trees out in the
5s.
forest, or they're building roofs all day out in the sun, right? Like there's a lot of jobs out there that I definitely would not personally envy, right? Like not jobs that I'd want to have. And no disrespect to the people who do them. I'm sure there's lots of people out there who actually do enjoy that stuff and like that's their calling in life.
Bro,
But for
stop
me,
the
that
ladder.
wasn't the case for a lot of people.
Bro, and then the game said you fell from a high place. That's crazy.
It's not the case. And for a lot of these streamers, they don't
That's
have
crazy.
any like experience really talking outside of Twitch or doing anything out of that. And so when you hear them say like, oh, it's so much harder, I have to deal with the Twitch chat, I have to deal with
yeah.
hundreds of comments a minute sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the thing that goes in with the perception, man. Like they don't really understand because they've also never really stepped into like a 9 to 5 position, or at least never held a 9 to 5 for a very long time. Like, sure, a 9 to 5, maybe the first week it's like, yeah, man, whatever, it's not a bad thing. But doing the same thing you've done for a week, for months, and even years for some people because they never got, promoted, or they never looked for a different job. Like for me, I couldn't do it. I honestly could not do it. Like even in the military, I hated how like we, PT, whatever, PT, and then you go in, you go to work, and it's like, okay, we need to do maintenance on the Humvee or whatever. And it's the same shit. You go in there with the thing, you do the checklist, blase, blase. Okay, you go to the maintenance bay. Hey, can we fix this shit? Maintenance bay is full. You go back, you say, hey, chief, I can't take it to the maintenance bay because the maintenance bay is full. Okay, we're going to go do something else. Maybe we're going to do some training, blase, blase. And it's the same shit. And then maybe you go to the field for a little bit, go to the field. That's some bullshit. And then you go back to the rear, and then you go ahead and clean the vehicles. Okay, then you take it back, and then you do the same shit again. You clock back in the next Monday, the next whatever the fuck, and then you go, hey, oh, we got to take it to the maintenance bay. Guess what? Maintenance bay's full, right? It's a Groundhog's Day, but it's a little bit longer and a little bit more arduous. It's the same shit. It happens over and over and over again. I'm not a big fan of that life in general, but other people I know, like from personality types, some people absolutely enjoy doing the same things over and over again because it's repetitive, because it's predictable, because it makes them comfortable to keep doing the same thing over and over. So that at the end of the day, it's going to be different for everybody. Like my personality trait can't stand doing the same shit. Just like that's why we're doing different content. Like even though we mainly focus on VTubers, like we're going to be checking out more content because I can't keep looking at the same shit over and over again, or else I'm going to blow my brains out. Legitimately. I'm not joking. Right? I'm going to go back to the lobby if I have to keep doing the same shit in my life over and over again. And that's just not what I like to do. So when it comes to some people, when it comes to a 9 to 5, they absolutely enjoy the 9 to 5 because they're doing the same thing over and over again. Like that's just their personality. Or if they're working in a corporate, like a big business corporate, and they're working with numbers, they love working with numbers and they love working in like logistics because it's usually the same shit over and over again. But they will absolutely lose their mind if one number is different from what it was last week or last month or last year. Like, why is this number not the same? And then they lose their mind and they go back and they go and audit every single thing to try and figure out who messed up where. Right. And it's not fun for them. For other people, that might be the fun part. Like, oh man, okay, same shit. Oh, it's something different. Let's figure it out. Right. Again, personalities, humans in general, psychology, we're all different, but we all have similar traits that can figure out and pinpoint where it is you would be good in the workforce that is society. So for some people having their own business, like think about blacksmiths back in the day, right? Some blacksmiths absolutely loved it. Having to make the 500th sword because they were passionate about making that sword. Every single time a new adventurer or new traveler showed up and they wanted a weapon, they loved it. And then other blacksmiths, they were like, man, like we're just making the same type of shit. And then they go out on the adventure on their own, right? They pack their bag and they say, I'm going to go look for this mystical ore to make some of the best weapons known to man. And then they went out and did that. And like that adventure helped them become, more of who they are. And then they go back to being a blacksmith because being a blacksmith, like that is who they are. And it's like, okay, now I have a better weapon, right? And this is where you get like the Miyamoto Musashis and you get like these legendary weapons because somebody went out to find whatever it took to make these weapons. Again, it's all subjective. And at the end of the day, like to say one is harder than the other, if you haven't experienced both, it's just very ignorant. Like, yeah, you could say, yeah, I have friends that are in the military. Oh, I got friends that are doctors. I got friends that are CEOs. Okay, yeah, you have friends like that, and they could tell you based off their personal experience. But at the end of the day, you're just interpreting whatever it is that they told you. And their experience isn't going to be the same if you were in that same position. So at the end of the day, unless you have done it, it's probably better not to really say it's better or worse than something else. But it is possible to talk about it. And sure, you can compare and contrast. But again, if you've not done it, like for me, I never worked a 9 to 5 in my life. So again, even though all my friends have talked about how hard it is or how boring it is, and even me looking at it, like I would know I would absolutely hate it just by looking at everybody else doing it. Like I can't really say it's harder or easier, and that's why I'm making this video and saying this. Like, you can't really say a 9 to 5 is harder or easier. It's just a different perspective, right? And that's all of this is different perspectives. But some streamers, they got big ass mouths and big ass egos, and they'll be out and they'll outright say, yeah, my job as a streamer is harder than your job because all you're doing is stacking boxes, and I got to perform in front of thousands of people. Like, that's just part ego, part ignorance.
And it's like, realistically, you're not going to read all of those comments anyway. Like, that's the one
True.
thing about the chat argument that always gets me. You'll see, like, they're like, well, look at this chat I have to manage. There's just so much going on, right? There's so many people here watching me. The pressure, the pressure it puts on me mentally. Like, I don't know, at least for me, I compartmentalized this in a pretty peculiar way very early on into my career. For instance, at this point, on average, every time I make a video, right? Every time my voice is heard on this channel, there's essentially an NFL stadium worth of people that are going to watch that video. You know what I mean? If this was like a real talk show, I'd be, talking to like a fucking sold out Super Bowl crowd. But it's just the internet. And obviously I'm not talking to any of you directly. I'm talking in a microphone in my studio.
You're talking in general.
They always, but the chat, it puts pressure. I understand that, right?
Sure,
Like,
some people get that pressure.
Because it's
Absolutely.
live and everything. But
Absolutely.
this isn't something that only you have to go through. I mean, for instance, think of the waitress at your local diner. If she doesn't perform, if she's not on 24/7 at work,
she gets fired.
Smiling, giving guests friendly service, getting the plates out, at the right time.
She gets fired or she gets called a bitch.
Correct. She may not get tipped, and therefore, she may not be able to make fucking rent. Like,
True.
These Twitch streamers are not the only people who have to act under pressure.
Absolutely.
Imagine being a fucking frontline grunt in the military and there's bullets whizzing past your head, right? Like, I would assume there's some pressure there too. Now,
100%
of course,
there's
you're
pressure
gonna
there.
have some people, but Optimus, you're making extreme examples. Most people don't have to deal with that. It just isn't a
Well, most people don't have to be streamers. So at that point, what the fuck is the conversation about?
Fair comparison, and I guess whatever, right? Like, I mean, honestly, there's millions of people in militaries around the planet, and then there's like
Literally.
what, a couple thousand professional streamers and YouTubers and whatnot, right? The comparison is completely fair in my opinion, but
It is
that's
fair.
the thing is like but the pressure, the chat, it's like once again, you're not reading the chat all the time, right? Most of the time you're doing whatever it is that you're focusing the stream on. You have moderators that are like going through the
You
chat and
should have
making sure that
moderators.
people, you know,
You should.
commenting shit like show your butt or whatever, or getting banned and like kicked out of the chat, right? So they act like they have to like manage the weight of 40,000 people on their back all at the same time. And I mean, if you just sit there and you really think about the technicalities, I guess sure, you could work your way into a whirlwind of thinking about it. But realistically to me, it just comes off as cope when I hear this, right? It's just, oh, but I need to find a reason. I need to find a reason to tell these people how hard
Absolutely.
my job is.
Absolutely, because people like to complain. People like to bitch and complain about their lives, no matter if they're living in a cush position. I'm pretty sure there's royalty out here, legitimate royalty, that has thousands of subjects and millions of subjects because they're the ruler of their country, right? I'm pretty sure they sit sometimes by themselves and they're like, man, it's so hard to be the king. It's so hard to be the prince. It's so hard to be the princess, and nobody will ever understand, nor will they care. Imagine if royalty like King Charles came out and he said, man, I don't like, he goes on an interview. He's like, I actually don't enjoy being king. I think it's tough. I think it's mentally taxing, and I wouldn't even wish this on my worst enemy. And then you're gonna have somebody in the street says, "Oh, look at him! He's bitching and complaining. You're the king. Why are you complaining? You have royal subjects to lick your boots all day. What's so hard about it?" Right? Because perception, and they don't understand what it's like to be in these tough roles, to be in these tough positions, and to do all these things. Which is why it was very surprising when Prince Henry he decided to walk away from the crown. Like that's why everybody was like, "Yo, like you're walking away," and it's like, can you blame the guy? He doesn't want to be royalty. He wanted to. Well, like of course his thing was like, you know, he wanted to get married and stuff like that, and he wanted to follow his love life. But at the end of the day, he wanted to be a human being. He wanted to be himself. He wanted to be who he is. But when you have royalty involved, right? You're supposed to do things not because you want to. You're supposed to do things because that is in your blood to do so. That is your God given right to do so, to take care of your country or whatever, right? How could you expect a human being that doesn't want to want to do that, right? And we're comparing like that is a job, that is a career, that is a title, compared to a streamer, compared to working at a 9 to 5, right? We all live in life. We all have our own parts to play in this world. So to sit and try and compare and contrast and complain just in general, just to complain, I think it's a waste of time and a waste of energy. You should take that energy and put it towards making your life easier or making it more enjoyable. But of course, easier said than done, right? I'm not sitting here and saying, oh, you could just make your life better, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, of course, a lot of it in general is a mindset. It is a growth mindset. It is a, you can do this, you know, stop comparing. Like, and it's hard to do that, right? Especially if you're on social media. Like to say, not, don't compare yourself. And then you go on Instagram and then you see 5 of your friends doing great. Even if it's like, yeah, it's your friends. Of course, you want your friends to do great. You might be looking at it like, damn, I should have did this. I should have done that. Well, stop looking at it, bro. Like you can still live your life. Like your life is not over, right? If you're working at a 9 to 5 and you don't enjoy it, you can pivot. You can do something else. You can save your money. Give yourself some time to figure out whatever else it is that you want to do, right? Same thing with content creators. If you don't enjoy the content that you're creating, then create something else. And of course, that might mean you have to start over. You might have to make a new channel. You might have to make a new identity. It's better than sitting and sulking all day, but that's just my opinion. Anyways, this is a cool video from Optimus. I got to go take my motorcycle to the repair shop, so I won't be finishing this, but it's definitely a very interesting video, and I do like the perspective this young man has. I've always enjoyed watching Optimus, like for years now. Like I've enjoyed his opinions on content in general, and like his opinions on life and stuff like that. It's really good to see like he's still being himself, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more. It's your boy KhunShawn. This comes from the Discord, so you can join the Discord down below, drop your videos, and I'll be checking them out. And as always, y'all be safe. This comes from Requiem Vanguard. Shout out to him. Peace.